Here's the left hand again. Boom. Overhand left. Now look over here. Look at his feet. His left foot is not even planted when he's throwing this. Okay, we are here just shortly after the knockout from Oleksandr Usyk against Daniel Dubois. Back here on the channel, we talked about, leading up to this fight in the film study that we did, the controversy surrounding the first fight. There was no controversy this time. It was very clear what happened. Oleksandr Usyk, I thought, lost maybe the third round at most and completely dominated from start to finish what turned out to be a shorter fight than many expected between Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois in a rematch. He is now a three-time undisputed champion, twice at heavyweight, once at cruiserweight, and we are in all-time territory with Oleksandr Usyk, if we weren't already, but officially we're here. It's cemented. Someone like me, for example, who was born in the mid-90s, missing the peak of Mike Tyson, not catching all of Evander Holyfield, seeing the tail end of the greatness that was Lennox Lewis, for example, getting a lot of the Klitschko's, but obviously missing out in real time of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Floyd Patterson, Joe Louis, so on and so forth, Jack Johnson, and YouTube could only do but so much. So I will phrase it this way. Of my lifetime, Oleksandr Usyk is the best heavyweight that I've seen. He's the best. He's the best, not because he beat Daniel Dubois the way that he did, but in terms of the accomplishments, in terms of the way he beats these guys, the way he constantly is able to bully and have his way with bigger fighters, bigger, more physically imposing heavyweights. And he's just this guy who's just a savant. You see how he sort of broke this fight down. Daniel Dubois makes a concerted effort right away in the first round, if you saw it, and then we're going to look at a couple of things before we get out of here. It's going to be a quick video. Daniel Dubois did a couple of things differently early on in terms of trying not to concede the center of the ring. There was clearly a concerted effort for him to put Oleksandr Usyk on the back foot, as opposed to Oleksandr Usyk just taking the center of the ring and being able to push and bully, Daniel Dubois around, as what happened in the first fight. Like, he was able to get to where he wanted very, very easily at times. Even though Daniel Dubois, I did think, had some moments in the early rounds of the last fight. But in this fight, Daniel Dubois felt much more aggressive out of the gate. It didn't matter, though. It didn't matter because Oleksandr Usyk was like, all right, cool, then I'm going to be the counterpuncher tonight. And I'm still going to do what I do in terms of shifting east to west, giving all the different angles that I can give, still getting to my jab, still getting to my straight left hand, turning that left hand over, making it into a hook. Like, all these different things that he was doing. I thought Daniel Dubois won round 3, and that was it. That was really it. So let's look a little bit deeper into this, and then we'll talk about what's next. The Zone, don't flag me. This is from Twitter. I don't want to smoke. But we have to look at the knockout. We're going to put the volume down. We know where this aired. I just mentioned it. So here's the knockout. We're going to actually slow this down so we can see this in slow motion first. Yeah, this is perfect. Boom. There's the left hand. And just absolutely buckles Daniel Dubois. Before this, Oleksandr Usyk scores a knockdown already. It looked to be kind of a flash. Daniel Dubois got up. He looked like he was going to be okay for a second, but then you see he takes another shot, and Oleksandr Usyk staggers him immediately. Now, I will show more of this, but again, don't want to get flagged. This happened just after. You need to wait a little bit longer at times to have a better chance of not getting popped. But you see here, this is when Oleksandr Usyk was on the chase, and I thought Daniel Dubois would actually make it deeper into this fight. Like, the over-under was 9.5. I felt like that was fair. I thought Usyk would, if not take it all the way to the cards, if Daniel Dubois has a better performance, win probably in that 7 to 12 round range. And he got this done a little bit earlier than I expected, but I did think he would likely get it done and get it done by stoppage. Here's the left hand again. Boom. Overhand left. Now look over here. Look at his feet. His left foot is not even planted when he's throwing this. And this is his good hand, obviously. This is a strong hand. Left foot, not planted, not on the ground. See? Look at that. Boom. It's just ridiculous. And he used the right hook to set this up, like, right before it got cut off. But regardless, like, you're looking at the knockout. So left hand connects. Daniel Dubois buckles. And he's just out. And you could see We'll put it back regular speed here. Boom. There's the impact. The hugging in the background. Oh yes, that's listen. Your partners are obviously very excited, and right here, I was like, once we got to 7, and Daniel Dubois was still on his ass, there was just no way. There was just no way. So now let's look at this, and here we have the punch stats already out. Oleksandr Usyk, I said Daniel Dubois to me won round 3. That's before looking at the numbers. The numbers do back that up. He was 11 of 44 to 9 of 33. Again, punch stats don't tell you everything. I say this in every single video where I talk about copy box and bring up punch stats and things of that nature. In this instance, though, Daniel Dubois only outlands Oleksandr Usyk in terms of just sheer volume, not accuracy, but the accuracy is close, 25% to 27%, but 11 of 44 against 9 of 33. He was also busier in this round. He was busier in most of the rounds, as a matter of fact. Didn't mean he was more accurate. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see the total punches. Oleksandr Usyk lands 57 out of 153. So for people who had the under on punches landed, good going. Daniel Dubois, 35 out of 179. I talked about the body punches and whether or not he would stick to that. He landed 10 body punches in the last fight. It felt like more because of all the low blows, but ultimately he lands just 8 here. Oleksandr Usyk lands 9 body punches in the fight in total. Jabs, Oleksandr Usyk 21 to 11, 21 out of 75, and the jab was doing work in this fight, absolute work. If you watch, he's able to get to it. It staggers Daniel Dubois. It's a power jab. A lot of different ways what he throws. Daniel Dubois just lands 11 out of 104. So that tells you Oleksandr Usyk has a much easier time setting up his other shots. Daniel Dubois, he looked like he was trying to land that perfect right hand for the duration of this fight. And obviously against Oleksandr Usyk, if you're not going to throw multiple shots, you're not going to have a shot. And honestly, I don't know if you're going to have a shot against Oleksandr Usyk regardless, but he looked like he was trying to set up a perfect right hand, but actually not set it up. He was just trying to throw it, right? Like he wasn't, always throwing it behind the jab, or the jab was very inaccurate, or it's just sort of like just out there. Like it wasn't a forceful jab. And it's already difficult to land a jab against Oleksandr Usyk to begin with. Power punches, Oleksandr Usyk, 36 out of 78. So he lands 46% of his power shots, hooks, uppercuts, so on and so forth. Round by round punch stats, Oleksandr Usyk, 11 of 26 in the first round, 42% accuracy. That's a blistering start. 12 of 33, 9 of 33, 13 of 44 in round 4, and then in round 5, 12 of 17. And obviously a bunch of those were with Daniel Dubois just trying to do what he can to survive. And he was just a sitting duck at that point. Daniel Dubois, 7 of 44 in round 1, 9 of 39 in the next round, 11 of 44 in what was his best round in round 3. Although I felt like he was fairly competitive in round 2 as well, but not better per se. Round 4, Oleksandr Usyk really took the fight back, really took it back under his control. 6 of 34 for Daniel Dubois in that round only, and 2 of 18 in the final round, and what became the final round. So, okay, rankings. In heavyweight division, let's move that out so you can see the rest of the top 10. We have Oleksandr Usyk, obviously now with every title. It's already updated. Shout out to Boxing Scene. The interim champions, because there are three interim heavyweight champions, and also a regular champion. So the WBA, of course, the super champion is Oleksandr Usyk. You see up here at the top, Kubrat Pulev is the regular champion. You have not woken up in 2015. Kubrat Pulev is still out here. And I think he's fighting on a Don King card coming up against Michael Hunter, #1 contender, to try to retain this regular WBA heavyweight championship. And I believe that fight is going to be in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Fabio Wardley, who's a name that's probably much more intriguing to many of you, is the interim champion. So Fabio Wardley could be in line to fight the Pulev Hunter winner, or more glamorously, Oleksandr Usyk. The WBC, the interim champion is Ajit Caballero, and Lawrence Collier won a decision against Kevin Lerena on this card in the co-feature. Lawrence Collier could be in line to fight for a championship at some point. Caballero should come first because he's the interim champion. Collier has the silver title for the WBC, but he's expected to get a title shot soon. Although, again, I said this on a mandatory show with Chantel Chan and I, and to be honest with you, I don't know if Lawrence Collier beats many, if any, of the dudes below him in this top 10 ranking. If you look at WBC, Anthony Joshua, F.A. Ajagba, Martin Bacoli, Philip Hergovich, Frank Sanchez, Bakhtir Jalalov, Zhilei Zhang, Moses Moses Atama's 10, Richard Torres Jr. is 9. I would pick the majority of those guys to beat Lawrence Okolie, all due respect. Joseph Parker is a WBO interim champion. He is the guy that is the most interesting, to me at least, of all of these like interim champion, regular champion, number one contender types. Outside of maybe Moses Atama to some, although I don't think Moses is ready for this yet. Not yet. Joseph Parker, on the other hand, he's a veteran. He's been around. He's been a champion multiple times. Feed him now. He was supposed to fight earlier this year against Daniel Dubois for the championship, for the IBF championship, but Daniel Dubois had to pull out. Joseph Parker fought Martin Bakole. That was obviously an easy win, one of the easiest wins that someone at the heavyweight division of that level could ask for. Oleksandr Usyk versus Joseph Parker was discussed by Frank Warren. He mentioned him being the interim WBO champion. And the IBF, just because I didn't mention it, and Oleksandr Usyk did mention Derek Chisora, but Oleksandr Usyk, if I could power rank the next guy that he could fight, next guys, in terms of just personal preference, and drop yours in the comments. Let me know if you agree, disagree, if you have other names in mind. Joseph Parker, number 1. Probably Ajit Caballero, number 2. I think Moses Atama, you could throw him in there, but I don't think he's ready. But I'd rather see him than, Kubrat Pulev. I think Fabio Wardley would actually be good too. That's an interesting one. You mentioned Derek Chisora. I think I'm cool, but I can't deny that that'd be a fun fight because Derek Chisora is just a fun, entertaining boxer. He just is. I think a couple other sneaky names like Efe Ajagba. I thought he beat Martin Bakole in his last fight. I think he's in line for a good fight. Maybe have him fight Anthony Joshua. I don't know, but heavyweight division's good right now. Even though the heavyweight division just has one dude who's clearly better than everyone else, you can sell a lot of different fights. It's a very, very poppin' heavyweight division right now. And I think, and you got a couple interesting prospects coming up as well, like a Moses Atama or Richard Torres Jr., who I think can make for some fun fights moving forward and will rise to, if not championships, at least contendership. I think they're both going to be at least contenders. And I'll say it again, just to wrap here. Oleksandr Usyk, best heavyweight of my lifetime. There's a lot of options on what he could do next. He could even retire. That being one of the options. You talk about wanting the rest. Don't know if we're going to see him again for the rest of 2025. And, I think he's earned that. He's the pound for pound number 1 to me. I don't necessarily think he's, miles better than everyone else in that way. I think it's clear, and it has been for a while, that the top 3 boxers in the world in some order are Oleksandr Usyk, Terence Crawford, Naoya Inoue. I had Terence Crawford number 1 for a while, but he only fights once a year at this point. If he beats Canelo Alvarez, though, I think there's going to be a discussion to be had, even though I kind of think Canelo Alvarez might be past his best days, but we'll see how that fight ultimately goes. Naoya Inoue is a 1 of 1. He got dropped by Ramon Cardenas and then got up and was in a real fight and got the stoppage, dug down deep. We saw him push like never before. Oleksandr Usyk, I think right now is the number 1 guy, though, beating Tyson Fury twice. The second time very convincingly as well. The first time I think was convincingly to a lot of people as well. And beating Daniel Dubois twice. Daniel Dubois was red hot going into this fight. Now, styles make fights. He fought 3 guys who were going to stand in front of him. Anthony Joshua was just disregarding defense entirely and then tried to big bro Daniel Dubois, and it didn't work out. He got into a brawl that he wanted to get into and got put on his ass, or on his face, his ass and his face, to be honest with you. And other than that, you had Oleksandr Usyk beating Filip Hrgovic, who, I thought got a gift against Zhilei Zhang and was also the favorite going into that fight, but he was ultimately going to stand in front of Daniel Dubois for the most part. And it was like, can Daniel Dubois actually just navigate this, overpower him? And he figured some things out and got an impressive victory. And then Jarrell Miller, who's a volume puncher, who's obviously going to stand in front of you. He's a big baby, 300 plus pounds. But again, Daniel Dubois was resilient in that fight. It looked shaky in the beginning, and he was able to get the stoppage. So credit to Daniel Dubois. I still think he's a factor in the heavyweight division. I think there's a world where he wins the world title again. For me, Oleksandr Usyk is the best heavyweight of my lifetime. So that would include the Klitschko's. I just think this dude is undeniable. And we've seen both Klitschko's have very down moments. We have not seen that yet from Oleksandr Usyk, and I'm questioning whether we ever will. Maybe if he hangs around too long, it'll catch up to him. But at 38, he's still this good. I don't know if it'll ever catch up to him. He might just get out before that ever happens. And honestly, he might just retire undefeated.